Designers are cooked again. Or are they? Is Claude Fable, or Mythos, really that great at design? They say it's so next level it will blow every other AI out of the water. That it's pure magic, super genius.
It was so powerful. The US government ordered them to turn it off before it destroys the entire UI design industry. I was lucky to be able to still use it, and of course shutting it off is definitely not another FOMO tactic hype train.
Well, I put it to the test based on 3 real projects done in my agency Squareblack.com. The results shocked me a little, but that's because they show a pretty terrifying future for the majority of designers. But more on that later. In each case, I gave Fable the entire necessary context, all the copy, all the colors, all the information about what's the purpose of the website and everything it might need. I didn't give it the original designs, obviously, because then it would just try to recreate them. One is a desktop landing page design for Vetidesk. One is a tablet design we did for FX Pro, and another is a very complex web app flow diagram that I asked it to pre-fill as a JSON file in my internal diagramming tool. Both UI designs we tried to compare it to are over 2 years old. It means that right now we would have done them probably even better, but it's a very good baseline to compare an AI that's trained on designs that were uploaded usually a year or 2 or even more years ago. What was the outcome? I believe it did a 6 out of 10 on the first design, a 4 out of 10 on the second one, and it failed pretty spectacularly on the last project, but at the same time it shows something pretty interesting. Because on the third project that it did definitely the worst of all of them, it shows a path that I think actually makes sense for AI use in design. So let me show you all 3 designs, explain a little bit about all the differences and what it did right and what it did wrong, and then at the end I'm gonna tell you which way design and AI are going, given that most of these super powerful tools will be extremely expensive and token-based very soon. I believe AI does have a place in professional workflows beyond just generating landing pages.
So on the right here, you can see what AI generated. It had all the copy, all the colors, and the real logo. And because most landing pages out there have these pill kickers, it made one up for this site even though it says veterinary clinic right here in the H1, so it's completely redundant. Also, there are multiple pill shapes and some of them are not buttons, so these shapes are competing for attention in the main CTI area. For some reason, it only highlighted the plus and the million, and that's pretty weird because the number is actually what matters here. Obviously, the key visual is gonna be pretty generic, but it did try to put the paw print in the background somewhere. The spacing is a little bit off because it uses the exact same spacing value for the entire main part of the hero section, and then it uses an extra half between the buttons and the little social proof section. AI is famously very bad at SVGs, so let's leave that part, but if you look at the style of the logo and how rounded it is, you're gonna notice that a lot of the icons that it proposed, like the phone one here, are a completely different set, different shapes and sizes. So let me show you the actual original design. First thing is that the main CTA button is a completely different color, so it stands out instantly from the background. AI tends to make those very bold headers, and actually in this case, a thinner font fits way better. And there is also a photo, heavily edited for the emotional connection. Yes, we even recolored the eyes to match the brand colors, and we recolored the color of the dog. Because as you can see, I can just take these shapes away, and the color is gonna be a different color. Now let's look at the entire site, and don't mind the cues, these are just some icon fonts that are missing because it's an old project. But as you can see, it's actually a thought out one. Before the visuals were done, we thought about what are the main questions and problems of veterinary clinics, and we tried to solve them in order of importance. What AI delivered here is just a generic template of a landing page, as expected. Now let's jump into the second project. It's for FX Pro, and we did this exploration for them 2.5 or even 3 years ago. The AI design has the traditional templatey kickers and the very, very thick headline font, which is multi-line for some reason, because 99% of templates have at least 2 lines, because some people think that it just looks better, even if it's not important. The buttons compete for attention with the buttons at the top because they have exactly duplicated colors. And then we're not gonna be mean for the SVG generated person, because obviously that can be replaced. But then when you look at the cards, this is a template card 101, which basically shows how AI does stuff. It always has a colorful icon with a lighter color of the same hue, rounded rectangle around it. And as you can see, even the visuals in our cards are all separate elements that are composited together by hand. That way, it's not an AI generated slope, but instead it's something that is thoughtfully placed in the right spot. To make the CTA, the main one, more prominent, we added a gradient to it, and this is how the rest of the website looks like, including a bento grid we did those 3 years ago. The main difference, aside from the quality of these two projects, is that this one is done with intention. It's actually thought out.
Now, I can't share the entire flow diagram with you because this is a project that is still under construction. But I want to share a couple of thoughts because this is a complex project, something an AI like that, like Fable or Mythos, would actually excel at. Let's start with the negatives. It got maybe 20 to 30% of the structure right, but it tends to actually add way too many pages and steps to the flow. Like, it really doesn't want to miss anything, but it seems like it's following patterns from junior designer portfolios, which is pretty probable because this is something that is the most abundant on the internet. So the most case studies that you will see online and possibly learn from are going to be from juniors looking for a job, because most serious people don't have the time to put one together, and even when they do, they're not going to share all their secrets with you. Every single flow node had either something missing or logical gaps. Now for the positives. It created a couple of edge cases that normally in a design process we don't have the time and budget to even consider doing. These are always implied and let the developers handle them based on the style guide and the general direction of the project itself. But now we were able to actually generate them, tweak them by hand obviously, but that way deliver a little bit more than usual. And the second thing is that it delivered everything in 2 hours. It required a lot of manual fixes, so in the end, the project that would have taken 2 to 3 days took about a day less. AI did a job pretty quickly, but all the extra stuff that I needed to do myself to get it to the point of usefulness, well, that took a lot of time. So I believe that when AI is heavily guided by hand, it can be very useful as a tool in a pro designer toolkit. Because all those extra edge cases and all those questions that you sometimes forget to ask can lead you to having better ideas in the first place. But it's not recycling some mobbing flows. It's not what we're doing here. You can get an inspiration from it, and that's basically what AI is training on as well, but you really need to actually use your brain. I don't see AI being generative in the way that you think. So you're not gonna just type in a prompt and get a very high quality results out of that. Especially when the prices for the most capable models go up, and the current models, the ones that are inside the subscriptions, are gonna be decreasing their quality of output to basically push you to pay for the tokens. But if you guide it by hand, it actually makes sense. The problem is that most people don't do that. They fall into the lazy trap of accepting a good enough result, and that means their skill atrophies and you are less able to notice these issues. So the more you use AI like that, without thinking, without effort, the lower the quality of the outputs. And when a, let's say, 7 out of 10 landing page can be now generated, because let's not kid ourselves, these are all templates. These are all predictable, repeatable templates that we had for years. They're just generated a little bit faster. But when something like that can be generated, you are not gonna be a successful designer if all you do is landing page designs with some blobby light leaks in the hero section. You gotta deliver actual insights, strategy, some innovation, some way of getting out of the comfort zone and creating something unique, something that matches the product itself and is possible to drive it forward, to drive more sales, but also possibly to even spawn some other directions for the product to go. Basically all the stuff that I talk about how to do and how we're doing in the Squareblack blueprint, link in the description. But if you are generating AI landing pages, you're not that much different from somebody buying a template. And AI is making all those landing pages look practically exactly the same. That's the definition of slop right now. It's not bad, but it's just identical, low effort, visible low effort and low quality. It also has a lot of these ambiguous abstract visuals, but we'll get to that next week. This is one of the reasons that so many agencies are now going out of business, because they only deliver something that can be automated. They deliver a pretty beautiful template that makes absolutely no sense. And yes, AI can sort of do that right now, especially if you guide it a little, give it some feedback on some GSAP animations or 3D transforms. It can do things that are pretty impressive. But that's the whole thing. Successful designers are not exactly the people who are just delivering some pixels on a canvas. That's just the final step of a thought process. And if you're skipping that thought process, then you're likely going to be replaced. Because as a client, would you pay for a website thousands of dollars if it looks like a recycled template? Exactly. And yeah, you can do those tweaks, you can add the transforms, the animations, the polish on top of it. But that requires a designer. That's beyond a single prompt thing. That requires you to know what you're doing, to know what you want to achieve, and if it's based on a foundation of strategy and a guiding path forward to deliver a result that actually makes sense and not just looks nice, then you're using AI just as a tool, and then it doesn't matter. So is Fable the end of design? Not really. If anything, these tools will require designers to refocus their attention. If you want to make good money, you have to go beyond just making templates. Yes, AI can sort of do that. They are sloppy templates, they might get better, but at the same time AI will get more expensive. So in many cases, the quality of what you deliver just needs to make sense for the client. Skip the templates and start actually thinking about the long-term value that you deliver. And that way, we're gonna have a beautiful day.